Okay, I didn't think I'd get to cover this game at all because I'm currently not in the country. If you see my community post, you'll know why. I'm on holiday, so this was recorded a little while ago, but I did manage to get an hour of hands-on time with Tiger Blade before I left for my holiday. And even though it was only about an hour of hands-on time, I did get a bit of an impression of what the game is like to play. The visual quality, the audio quality, generally just how the gameplay feels, which is what I'm going to focus on for this video, because I don't have a comprehensive review of the whole game, because I simply haven't had enough time on my plate to do so. But Tiger Blade in itself is essentially a similar game to Until You Fall, if you've ever played that. You're set a level with enemies, and as you slash through them, essentially, you progress on to the next enemy, and it advances you to different positions around the map until you've cleared through the whole level, and then it'll give you your time and your score and all that good stuff. At least during the first hour or so, most of the enemies you're coming up against either have swords, meaning you'll have to parry their attacks as they slash at you and then slash back, or they'll have guns, meaning you have to shoot them. The gameplay is structured so that your bullets will do no damage to the sword type enemies, and your sword will do no damage to the bullet enemies. So essentially you have to take out each of them without cheating it. So you can't just shoot the sword enemies that are running at you, you have to take them out with your sword, and I think that works pretty well. And the game is focused around this ranged and melee combat. I do have to make a point though that I thought this game would have free locomotion. It doesn't, it is point to point, meaning that as you slash through an enemy, it advances you to the next position in which you can kill the next horde of enemies, and then it puts you to the next position after that in which you can kill the next horde and the next horde until you reach the end. Coupled with a couple sections where you have to use your grappling hook to kind of swing yourself towards the next position that you're meant to be in. I was a little disappointed by that, but after playing around with it for a bit, it does kind of feel right because it helps the flow of the game keep up, and you really do get tired. This game is a workout, like Until You Fall is too. So I kind of support the decision to not have free locomotion in a game like this. It does make sense for it, although if that turns you off completely from a game, you may want to steer clear a little bit. There's also no smooth turning, at least I couldn't find an option for it, because each of the positions that you turn in are kind of meant to be set positions. It's weird to say, but you kind of play this game a little bit like Beat Saber, where most of the action that's happening is either happening in front of you, or to like the right of you or the left. You don't really need to turn around 180 degrees. That's just not really necessary, at least in the levels that I played. You're pretty much all set for the action being in your front 180 degrees. So I do understand not having smooth turning because you're meant to kind of turn to each position if you are going to use that, right joystick to turn. But it is a little weird jumping into a VR game with no free locomotion and no smooth turning. And I know that's also going to put some other people off. I gave it a chance and I ended up enjoying it because the game is kind of built around these two movement options, but I understand if that is putting you off a little bit from it. Let's talk visuals as well, because I think in terms of resolution, Tiger Blade is similar to maybe Arizona Sunshine. It's on the same level. It looks pretty damn decent. Close up, everything looks really sharp, especially the swords you're holding, the guns you're holding. It looks pretty good. It looks sharp, and it's stylized to a point where it's visually a very nice game to look at when you're in the headset. But there is a bit of shimmering, a little bit of blur on farther objects. I don't think there's foveated rendering in this one. So yeah, further on objects, you're going to see a little bit of that shimmer like you would in Arizona. But it's by no means egregious, it just is noticeable that it's there. But once you're engrossed in the combat, you may not notice it at all. So yeah. You also use your grip button to switch between your pistol and your sword. So essentially you're doing all of the action with your right arm. You're slashing and you're shooting both with that right arm. And when you want to switch to your pistol, you push in that grip button and it brings out your pistol and then you can shoot. And it does it very quickly, so you can get into a good rhythm of blocking, parrying bullets, parrying swords, and also shooting ranged enemies at the same time. While your left arm is kind of left there with a grapple hook to make sure that you can get to your next position when you have to grapple over to it. And your right arm is also reserved for blocking, which you can use when you get an object to do so. So you can grapple, say, a cover of a power box over to your arm. It's a piece of sheet of metal that'll tell you how many hits it can take, and you can hold it up to block bullets and also block swings that are incoming at you. But yeah, the gameplay essentially revolves around you having to time your attacks to kill the enemies, both in ranged and in melee combat. And the soundtrack does help with that, I would say. The soundtrack is really like, it goes hard, like that's the main thing. The soundtrack really does. I'm not sure whether I want to play it. I don't think I will, because I'm assuming it's not copyrighted. But with my schedule of uploading this, I won't really be able to check if the video gets striked. So I'm going to leave it, but just trust me, the soundtrack to this one really does slap. And check out the trailers if you want to get a sneak preview of how the music sounds. It all sounds like that. The music's great. There's also a story about warring gangs and mercenaries, which you can follow along. It's nothing special, but it is there if you need a story to kind of complete a video game experience for yourself. I personally would have been happy without it, just these stages to go through and slice up people, because that is fun in of itself. But yeah, there is a story if you're interested in that sort of thing. The game does also have boss battles. I've only encountered, I think, 1 or 2 of these so far. They're essentially enemies that send different kinds of attacks at you, like a absolute hail of bullets that you have to parry or block. And they're genuinely quite fun, but the game is fairly hard. It really doesn't ease you into it in terms of levels, in terms of difficulty, because it kind of just throws you in there and expects you to adapt or die. And I kind of respect that, but it is quite a difficult and exhausting game. But you want to know that you're getting into that sort of game before you buy it, so I'm here to tell you. So yeah, those are my first impressions of Tiger Blade. Overall, I'm slightly surprised by it. I think it's pretty decent. But there are a couple of non-VRAF features that really turn me off from it. The gameplay loop can get very repetitive. I found it repetitive by the first hour that had passed, but it's kind of like Until You Fall, where you want to jump in, do a couple levels, take a little break, play something else, and then come back. But yeah, I overall had fun with it. I think it's $25 on the store. If you can justify the price for a game like this, I'd say go for it. You're probably going to enjoy it, but it's for a very specific type of audience. But I guess you can say every game is for a specific type of audience, so nothing new there. But yeah, Tiger Blade, I did enjoy it. Let me know what you think of it. This is only my first impressions, though. I don't have time for a full review, which I apologize for. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you all in the next one.